The New York City Housing Authority, more commonly known as NYCHA, is the single largest provider of public housing in the nation. NYCHA provides quality, safe, and affordable homes to more than 650,000 New Yorkers and offers community, educational, and enrichment programs and social and supportive services to more than 150,000 people. NYCHA is an integral part of the working and middle-class neighborhoods that are the backbone of New York City.
Means access to affordable housing, but it also means a place to allow New Yorkers who run this city, whether they work in the transit authority or whether they're a teacher in the public schools or whether they're a police officer or a community associate, to live and work in this city and to keep the city vibrant.
The first thing that comes to mind when I hear the word NYCHAs are community, affordable housing, outreach, involvement, and just helping people afford a place to live.
I love my home. That's my home. I love it very much.
But despite all this, NYCHA is in one of the most challenging periods of its 76-year history. As low and middle income families have faced increasing economic pressure, government has provided less funding to NYCHA and to the programs and services more than 500,000 New Yorkers count on. At the same time, NYCHA has had to make increasingly costly trade-offs to maintain and repair its more than 2,000 aging buildings because of this funding need.
NYCHA has to do everything it can to become more and more self-sustaining, which means finding alternative means of financing. We will always get some money from HUD, but we need to come up with additional funds.
How are we going to tackle work orders? How are we going to address the customer service relationship? Sometimes we're not taking care of basic needs that need to be cared. The staff needs to hear that we need to talk. The only way we're going to preserve public housing in New York City if we work together.
In the face of these challenges, NYCHA is acting. The authority is developing a long-term strategy for the future. Plan NYCHA, a plan to preserve public housing. NYCHA spent the last year talking to residents, employees, advocates, and other city agencies about what needs to change to make NYCHA and the community it serves stronger and more secure.
The plan to preserve public housing is a 5-year strategic plan that looks at all of the things we need to really tackle in order to ensure that NYCHA will be strong as it has been for the past 75 years going forward.
I hope that I can bring my issues and learn about what do they have planning for us.
What it should accomplish is getting everyone, the residents as well as management as well as the housing authority, to think as one.
Now, in an effort to rebuild trust and bring their most important partners into the conversation on how to move the authority forward, NYCHA hosted a series of 10 community conversations. More than 800 people representing the rich diversity of public housing communities in NYCHA took part in meetings in Spanish, Chinese, Russian, and English. NYCHA came to community centers throughout the 5 boroughs to share Plan NYCHA, to hear resident stories, and to learn how to better collaborate on strengthening NYCHA's more than 300 public housing communities and preserving this vital housing and service provider for future generations.
We want to create the new image of public housing, which is one where we are engaged in a conversation and we are contributors to the community. We're an economic engine, and we're also part of building the future of this great city, as we always have been.
Housing is trying to make an effort, but if we don't come out to make the effort with them, we won't know about it.
The plan is about a movement for change. I think at its core, it's a spirit about sort of hope for the future, for the city and for all of its residents. It also is actually a plan, so it'll be a document that gives us a roadmap that we can work on together.
The best way that NYCHA can accomplish the goals is by bringing all of the stakeholders at the table. Every single individual who interact with this institution, who depend on this institution, who contribute to this institution, must come together to achieve a common goal. That common goal is to preserve public housing for many generations to come. It had to be an agreement between residents, workers, the community at large, that this resource is an economic engine for New York City and we cannot afford to lose it.